She stormed up my driveway, waving a clipboard like it was a weapon. "You can't park here," she barked, blocking my truck with her body. I blinked at her, still holding my morning coffee. "Ma'am, this is my land," I said slowly, pointing to the freshly posted property marker. But she just laughed. That fake, sharp laugh that dripped with entitlement. "Not anymore. The HOA says your property line ends at that fence. Everything beyond that belongs to us now." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I didn't even live in an HOA neighborhood. The nearest HOA was 3 blocks away. "You mean your HOA?" I corrected. "I bought this land from the city. It's public record." But she wasn't listening. She slapped a folded paper on my truck window and said, "Consider this your first violation notice." That's when I saw it, a cheap printout, with the words "Show Compliance Warning" in bold red letters. No letterhead, no logo, just her signature scrawled at the bottom. "Karen DHO Enforcement." I felt a chill run through me. "You forged this?" I asked quietly. She crossed her arms. "You people think you can just move in wherever you want. Not in my community." That word, "my," hit me like a slap. My jaw tightened, but I didn't yell. I just smiled a little. "You sure you want to play this game?" I asked. She smirked, stepping closer. "Oh, I already did. The HOA board is filing a report. You'll be off this land by next week." Then she pulled out her phone. "Actually, why wait?" she said, dialing 911 right there. "Yes, officer. There's a man trespassing on private HOA property." I could hear my own heartbeat thudding in my ears. She was actually doing it, lying to the police. But what she didn't know was that the trespasser she just reported had spent 10 years working as a federal land surveyor for the U.S. government, and I had the maps and footage to prove every inch of this soil was mine. As the sirens echoed in the distance, she grinned at me like she'd already won. But I just whispered to myself, "You have no idea who you're messing with." 2 patrol cars pulled up within minutes, lights flashing across the front of my cabin. Karen rushed toward them like she was the hero of the story. "That's him," she shouted, pointing right at me. "He broke into HOA land, built a shed without a permit, and threatened me." Her voice trembled just enough to sound convincing. One of the officers, a tall guy with a calm face, looked at me. "Sir, we got a trespassing call. Mind telling me what's going on?" I raised my hand slightly, trying to keep my tone even. "Officers, this is my property. I have the deed inside, and I'm not under any HOA." Karen laughed like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. "Oh, he'll say anything. He even made fake land documents. You should see how he talks to women around here." She turned to the officers, lowering her voice. "Total psycho. He even recorded me without permission." The officer's eyes shifted to me again, cautious now. "Sir, do you have any proof of ownership on you?" I nodded and walked toward my truck, pulling out a thick folder. "Everything's here. County records, GPS plot, title deed, survey certificate, all under my name." Karen rolled her eyes, whispering loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yeah, right. Probably printed those online." I handed the documents to the officer, who studied them carefully. Then something in his expression changed, a small flicker of realization. "Wait, your name's Daniel Holt?" Karen froze for half a second, then forced a laugh. "So what?" The officer looked up at her. "Ma'am, Daniel Holt used to oversee this entire county's land development program. He's literally the guy who drew these boundary maps." The color drained from her face. "That's not possible," she said, her voice cracking. He threatened me. I have the right to protect our HOA property." I tilted my head, watching her unravel. "Funny thing about lies," I said softly. "They sound real, until truth shows up with paperwork." The second officer whispered something to his partner, and I caught the words fake notice and impersonation. Karen took a shaky step back. "Wait, you don't understand. I was just trying to keep the community safe," she stammered. But I could see the fear now. Her confidence was cracking piece by piece, and just as I thought it might be over, her phone buzzed. She looked down, went pale, and whispered, "Oh no." The officer leaned closer. "Ma'am, problem?" She hesitated, then turned the screen toward him. It was a text from someone in her own HOA board. "Karen, stop. He's not in our jurisdiction. The county just emailed us." She swallowed hard. And that's when I realized this wasn't about land anymore. Karen had done something way bigger, and she wasn't working alone. Karen's hand started to shake as the officer stepped aside. to make a quick call to dispatch. She glanced around, eyes darting like a trapped animal. "This is a misunderstanding," she said under her breath, clutching her clipboard to her chest. "The HOA gave me authority to handle these situations." I took a slow step closer, lowering my voice. "Then why are your emails signed with a different name?" Her head snapped up, startled. She didn't know that I'd already checked. The moment she slapped that fake notice on my truck, I'd scanned it and traced the email domain. It wasn't from any HOA system. It was a personal Gmail account. The officer on the phone turned toward us. "Ma'am, the HOA board confirmed they never sent you out here. You're not even part of their enforcement committee." Karen's face went blank. "That's not true," she shouted. "I helped them with compliance. They just don't want to admit it because they're scared of lawsuits." I watched her crumble. Every sentence came out thinner, shakier. "You forged letters," I said quietly. "You harassed people, and you tried to get me arrested on my own land. Why?" She glared at me, eyes filled with pure spite. "Because you people move in here, building sheds, parking your junk trucks, lowering our property value. Someone had to take charge." The officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, you just admitted to impersonating HOA authority. That's a criminal offense." Karen suddenly lunged toward her phone, shouting, "You have no idea who you're messing with. The board will back me up." Before she could finish, her phone rang again. The same number as before. The officer gestured for her to answer. She hesitated, then put it on speaker. A man's stern voice filled the air. "Karen, we told you last month to stop using HOA letterhead. You're not an officer. The county's investigating. Do not involve us again." The silence that followed was heavy. You could almost hear the weight of her lies collapsing. Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. I exhaled slowly, looking straight at her. "You called the cops on me with fake authority, forged documents, and lies. You nearly ruined my record." She blinked fast, her voice trembling. "You don't understand. It was just supposed to scare you off. I didn't think you'd—"
"Stand my ground," I cut in.
"Yeah, you didn't think that far." Just then the officer's radio crackled. "Dispatch confirms property ownership. Mr. Holt is clear. Proceeding with impersonation report." Karen looked at me one last time, a stare full of anger and fear. "You think you've won?" she hissed. "You don't know what's coming next." Her words sent a chill through me, because in that moment I realized something. She wasn't bluffing. There was something coming, and she wasn't working alone. The cops took Karen aside, but she wouldn't stop talking. She kept whispering names, people from the HOA board, a lawyer, someone from the county office. The more she spoke, the clearer it became. This wasn't just one angry neighbor. This was a network, and she was their loudest voice. I stood near my porch, watching her through the flashing lights. My hands were still shaking, but not from fear this time, from realization. She'd been targeting more people. I remembered the elderly couple down the road whose mailbox violated HOA height limits. Their house was outside the HOA too, and the new family who'd gotten a fake noise violation taped to their door last week. It was all Karen. She'd been running her own little empire of control, pretending to be an authority no one had ever given her. The officer approached me again. "Mr. Holt will need your statement. Seems this lady's been faking notices all over the county. You might have just exposed something big." I nodded, pulling out my phone. "You're gonna want to see this," I said, opening my camera roll. I'd installed motion sensors around my property months ago after construction vandals hit nearby lots. One of the cameras had caught Karen and two men late at night, planting fake boundary flags on my side of the line. The officer's jaw clenched. "You have timestamps?" "Everything," I said. "And GPS logs. I can prove they tried to shift the property line by 11 feet. Karen overheard and snapped, "That's not true. We were marking old HOA borders on land that's not yours." The officer interrupted sharply. "Ma'am, that's tampering with survey property. That's a felony." Her eyes went wide. "Felony?" she repeated, like she'd never imagined it could come to that. I took a breath and said quietly, "You called me a trespasser on my own land. You dragged police here, lied to them, and tried to make me look dangerous. But all you did was draw a spotlight right onto your own crimes." Karen's face went red with fury. "You don't deserve this land," she screamed suddenly, pointing at me. "You people come in thinking you can buy whatever you want. I've lived here 20 years. The officer held up his hand. "That's enough. You're done talking. They led her toward the patrol car, but just before she got in, she twisted back around and hissed, "This isn't over. The board will clean this up. You'll see." I stared after her, my mind spinning. The board. She kept mentioning them like they were her safety net. But if she'd really been doing this for months and the board knew, maybe they weren't just ignoring her. Maybe they were using her. That night, as the police left and silence settled over my property again, I walked to my fence line under the cold moonlight. The fake HOA flags were still there, fluttering slightly in the breeze. I pulled one out of the ground, and on the back, written in small print, was a company name I hadn't noticed before. It wasn't the HOA. It was a private real estate developer. And that's when it hit me. Karen wasn't fighting for rules. She was helping someone take this land. The next morning I drove straight to the county records office. The place was quiet, sunlight cutting across stacks of files and dusty desks. I showed the clerk the flag I'd pulled from my property, the one with the developer's name printed on the back. She frowned and typed something into her computer. After a long pause, she looked up. "That company's been trying to buy parcels along your road for months. They're filing boundary adjustments. And guess who submitted the supporting paperwork?" I leaned in. "Who?" She turned the screen slightly. And there it was. A scanned document with a familiar signature at the bottom. Karen D., Community Enforcement Representative. I felt my stomach twist. She'd been working with them the whole time. Every fake notice, every call to the police, every violation. It was all part of a setup to push landowners off their lots. And my land was right in the center of their development plan. I left the office in silence, my heart pounding. By the time I got home, a black SUV was parked at the end of my driveway. A man in a suit stepped out holding a folder. He smiled politely. "Mr. Holt, I represent Weston Development Group. We'd like to make a fair offer for your property." I cut him off. "You sent Karen?" His smile didn't even flicker. "I'm not sure what you mean. She was a passionate volunteer." "Passionate?" I said, stepping closer. "She forged documents, harassed homeowners, and impersonated an HOA officer." "You think that's passion?" He sighed softly. "You could drag this out in court, sure. Or you could take our offer. Triple market value. No headaches, no legal mess." For a moment I just looked at him, calm, still. Then I said, "You must think I'm stupid." His expression hardened. "You don't want to make enemies of people with influence, Mr. Holt." That's when I smiled, not out of humor, but out of knowing something he didn't. "You already did," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. "You're on camera. So is this conversation, and this footage." I turned the screen toward him, showing the police report number and the night video of Karen placing those flags. He was already with the county investigator and 2 local reporters. His face dropped. The SUV door opened behind him. A woman inside whispered something urgently. He shut the folder, forced a smile, and said, "We'll be in touch." Then they drove off, tires crunching against the gravel. By evening, my phone buzzed again. A call from the sheriff's office. "Mr. Holt? Just wanted you to know, we executed a warrant today. Karen and 2 employees from that development firm are in custody for fraud, forgery, and land tampering." I stared out at my land, the trees glowing orange under the setting sun. For the first time in weeks, it felt peaceful again. I could finally breathe. Before hanging up, the sheriff added, "And Daniel, one of the officers said something I think you'll want to hear. Karen kept saying, 'He doesn't belong here.' He told her, 'Ma'am, that man built this place.'" I smiled faintly, watching the wind move across my field. Karen tried to take my land with lies and fake power, but in the end, the truth had deeper roots. And no one, not even an HOA Karen, can steal that. Viral line. She called me a trespasser on my own land, but by the time it was over, she was the one trespassing in handcuffs. I left the office in silence, my heart pounding. By the time I got home, a black SUV was parked at the end of my driveway. A man in a suit stepped out holding a folder. He smiled politely. "Mr. Holt, I represent Weston Development Group. We'd like to make a fair offer for your property." I cut him off. "You sent Karen?" His smile didn't even flicker. "I'm not sure what you mean. She was a passionate volunteer." "Passionate?" I said, stepping closer. She forged documents, harassed homeowners, and impersonated an HOA officer. You think that's passion? He sighed softly. You could drag this out in court, sure. Or you could take our offer. Triple market value. No headaches, no legal mess. For a moment, I just looked at him, calm, still. Then I said, "You must think I'm stupid." His expression hardened. "You don't want to make enemies of people with influence, Mr. Holt." That's when I smiled, not out of humor, but out of knowing something he didn't. "You already did," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. "You're on camera. So is this conversation, and this footage." I turned the screen toward him, showing the police report number and the night video of Karen placing those flags. I was already with the county investigator and 2 local reporters. His face dropped. The SUV door opened behind him. A woman inside whispered something urgently. He shut the folder, forced a smile, and said, "We'll be in touch." Then they drove off, tires crunching against the gravel. By evening, my phone buzzed again. A call from the sheriff's office. "Mr. Holt? Just wanted you to know, we executed a warrant today. Karen and 2 employees from that development firm are in custody for fraud, forgery, and land tampering." I stared out at my land, the trees glowing orange under the setting sun. For the first time in weeks, it felt peaceful again. I could finally breathe. Before hanging up, the sheriff added, "And Daniel, one of the officers said something I think you'll want to hear. Karen kept saying, 'He doesn't belong here.' He told her, 'Ma'am, that man built this place.'" I smiled faintly, watching the wind move across my field. Karen tried to take my land with lies and fake power, but in the end, the truth had deeper roots, and no one, not even an HOA Karen, can steal that. Ugh. Viral line. She called me a trespasser on my own land, but by the time it was over, she was the one trespassing in handcuffs.